Oversight Part 2 of Brunch. It's good to have you with us. My guest this morning is a gentleman who was appointed on November 7th. But if you look at what he did 10 years before that, it is a long list of good things, working in some very important areas, albeit it is beyond us this morning. We'll leave that out of our reach. But he worked on extradition. He worked at the Financial Intelligence Unit. He was part of the Proceeds of Crime Amendment, contributing to that. And he is generally known now as Mr. Director. He is the head of the PCA, the PCA, of course, being the Police Complaint Authority. Mr. David West, thank you so much for joining us.
Sure, thank you for having me, and welcome to your listeners.
Yes, it's good to have you inside of here. There are so many areas we can start with you, but one of the reasons I'm so happy that you acquiesced to be here is because a lot of folks are in ignorance as to what is the PCA. So in congratulating you in what you've been doing there, I want to start with the PCA. Make clear for our listeners this morning, what is the PCA?
Okay, the PCA stands for the Police Complaints Authority. The Police Complaints Authority is actually a body, an independent body, set up by Parliament under the Police Complaints Authority Act 2006. In that act, it gives us the powers to review complaints or listen to complaints by complainants, and then we then investigate those complaints against police officers, and then we can then make a recommendation if we find that there's a criminal offense has taken place to the Director of Public Prosecutions, or if there's a disciplinary offense, if a police officer has breached the police service regulations, we can make a recommendation to the police commissioner that a matter go before a tribunal or the police service commission. Now, the PCA has a broad remit, but limited. When I say that, it is broad in terms of we can investigate any police officer for a criminal offense, any police officer for police corruption, and any police officer for serious police misconduct. So those are the three broad areas where we have the jurisdiction or authority to carry out or initiate an investigation.
Just for clarity, you have said repeatedly, you have emphasized and reiterated any. That goes all the way up to the ACP?
Oh, up to the Acting Commissioner of Police.
All the way up to the top, yes, please go ahead.
So okay. From top to bottom, we have oversight. We are a civilian oversight body looking out for the police actions of the police officers. From the Commissioner of Police down to the constable. Even the Special Reserve Police officers we have jurisdiction over. Many
of the institutions we have, like yours, set up to look out for the citizenry or abuse of public office, in this case for police officers. Many folks question the independence of these organizations. Who is your line minister? Who are you answerable to? Because that is going to have bearing into the common perception that there is governmental or politics interfering all the time. Speak to the independence of the PCA by letting me know who is your line minister. My understanding is that you have none, but please clarify for me.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because it is something that I want to make clear to your listening viewers that the Police Complaints Authority has no line minister. The director and the deputy director are appointed on the advice of the Prime Minister and leader of the opposition. If they cannot agree on a candidate, then the president makes the appointment.
So whether or not they agree, the president can override their objection,
yes,
and just go ahead and make the appointment.
Yes.
So it is true to say that it is a presidential appointment with, of course, the built-in consultation.
Yes.
That is not binding necessarily.
Correct, but for my appointment and for the former Justice Lucky's appointment as director and Master Ralph Doyle, who is the current deputy director, both the leader of the opposition and the Prime Minister agreed to those appointments. Okay. Now, we are independent because we have our own budget. Parliament gives us, we submit a budget to the minister responsible for the PCA, which was, in the former government, was the Minister of Legal Affairs. Now it is under the Attorney General, so the PCA is now under the Attorney General. So we will submit a budget to the Attorney General. He would then give us X amount of dollars, and then we can spend that money how we wish.
Performance is going to be one of the things, so it does beg the question then, is the AG the one who is going to look at the performance of this body, or is it the Parliament that looks at your yearly reports?
It's the Parliament.
It is the Parliament.
Because I'm happy you're on the ball, Mr. Bishop. I'm very happy because what we are answerable to Parliament. We submit an annual report. given our audited financial accounts to Parliament, and we submit an annual report to Parliament, which parliamentarians can read. And we can be called before the Joint Select Committee of Parliament to answer to anything in the report or any actions we have done. So we are answerable to Parliament, not to any line minister, and we are independent from any political interference, and because we investigate what we want to investigate. No one tells us what to investigate or can tell us what to investigate.
Your body is a very important body, because when we talk of the criminality in the country, we talk about crime in general. If we take just the area of murders, we're talking about 550 was the record number in 2008. This year thus far is 322, and we still have 3 months to go. Now, what does that have to do with the director of the PCA? Well, a whole lot, because for the citizenry to team with the police, which is, everyone will agree, is at the heart of solving any crime problem, the citizenry must have confidence in the police being of integrity. That is a problem. Where they find that the police lack the integrity or they have suspicions, then they have to go somewhere and say, this is my problem. I go and I report XYZ. Before I left the station, somebody outside knew about so-and-so, and or I suspect this officer did so-and-so, or I was treated so-and-so. So a citizen listening this morning is going to say, I want to go to somebody and talk, but I don't trust anybody. That is why I ask you here this morning to make it clear so folks understand the PCA is where they can go and be protected. And I ask you that against the backdrop of what happened with the Chatham family. Because many people use that as a barometer to measure how safe they are in coming to an organization with their story, and the PCA will be the first one we are speaking of. Please.
Well, the PCA, I can go on a limb and say I can guarantee confidentiality when complainants come to the PCA. We have a very good track record. Our investigators are, I would say, second to none. They are all civilian personnel. There are no police officers involved in the Police Complaints Authority. So there's no word or leak getting back to any police officer. And our investigators and the PCA body as a whole and staff take their job very seriously. Now, coming back to your question, when a complainant comes in, it is treated very confidential. Okay, nothing is leaked out. We have not had any leaks of any information for anybody coming into the PCA and saying, making a report, and then the police officers then victimizing that person. So we pride ourselves in confidentiality. There's also an office in Tobago. We also have an office in Tobago, which is staffed by people from the PCA. And again, Tobago being very small, but yet still the confidentiality remains in Tobago. What we have found is that we have done several outreach programs in Tobago, in Santa Cruz, Chaguanas, and we intend to continue. And we emphasize the confidentiality nature, and we say, come in, and do not go on other programs, other TV programs, and expose yourself, because then the police will see who you are. Come into the PC, and we will investigate the matter, and we will make our recommendations. Now, I don't want to jump ahead of the interview, but we also have some amendments to make. We want to pose to this new government, because we tried with the previous government and we didn't get anywhere, although it was moving forward, and a note had to be written to cabinet for our amendments, but of course Parliament prorogued, and that fell by the wayside. But I'm hoping this week to meet with the Attorney General and the Minister in the Attorney General's office, Mr. Stuart Young, and we can sell our policy of amendments to them, because we need amendments. For example, right now, we don't have the same privileged immunities as a police officer. So, for example, when we go to a crime scene, we cannot hold the firearm and seize it because we've been in possession of a firearm, okay? And therefore, that leads the...
Compromise the investigation, because anything could happen with it from point A to point B.
Exactly.
Yes.
So what we can do is we can monitor the investigation, so we can see when the firearm goes to the forensic science center. We can look at the station diary extracts, for example, to see whether or not that police officer who's alleged to have done the shooting was the same officer who had a firearm. So that's how we do. But we want to be able to go in and seize the firearm. We want to be able to go in and seize the marijuana package if there is marijuana involved. So we can get hands-on. In Jamaica, the Independent Commission for Investigations in Jamaica, INDICOM, they have those powers. Ordinary immigration officers have those powers. They have civilians, they have those powers. Customs officers have the power to arrest and seize. So therefore, we can also, it's nothing new. We're not inventing the wheel. We want to do that. What I was pleased about is in the government's crime plan on the election hustings, they stated that they wanted to have an independent police complaints authority with the power to be able to prosecute. Okay, now I never approached them or thought I would get so far so soon because it's a, in Trinidad laws take a long time to develop. And I just wanted to get the first base, which was the powers, privileges, and immunities.
And somebody told you to complete the home run.
Exactly.
But it's necessary because the situation is so bad now.
But it's delay. What happens when we make our recommendations to the DPP and the Commissioner of Police, the delay from the start of the investigation to our completion could be 6 to 8 months. And then, of course, the further delay to go into the DPP or the Commissioner of Police, okay, that delay, if we have the power to be able to prosecute matters on our own, okay, then that will speed up the process, and there would be a check and balance, and that the DPP's constitutional power can always be to discontinue the matter. Okay, they have the redress. The police officer in the courts has the redress of filing judicial review of our decision to prosecute, to show that we had no evidence to prosecute in the first place, and finally, Parliament could also, if we do a prosecution that the people think is biased, could bring us before the Parliament Joint Select Committee and say, well, listen, where was the evidence for you to initiate this prosecution? Show me the evidence, and then we will show them the evidence. So we have checks and balances, so it is a right fit that we should be able to prosecute these matters.
You're listening to Brunch on 107.7. My guest is Director David West, and we are talking about the PCA, the powers of the PCA. My guest previously had been a state prosecutor, for those who know, in the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, also Director Designate of the Financial Intelligence Unit. All these are wonderful areas I would like to pull him into, but he said we will keep this staying in the lane, as it were, and the lane is the PCA, continuing on this area of the public confidence in the fact that they can use the PCA. With the extended power, should you get it, we can go there, but I just want to say with what obtains right now.
Sure.
What obtains right now is the general feeling that there are police officers who are aware of their colleagues who are doing stuff. I remember as recently as the last 6 months, one officer coming forward and then saying, after I came forward to the PCA, I was harassed.
Yes.
Now, in cases like this, and while this conversation is primarily for the general audience, understanding the contributors to helping solve the problem, and the police who decides to speak against his colleague is a contributor helping all of the society. So, if you say that no one has been there's been no leak from your office, I'm not challenging that. What I am saying is, if in a small society an officer comes to you and says X, Y, Z, and the word gets around, really he's looking at a potential what could be as bad as a death sentence. It is almost the same equivalent that kids face on the street when they do what is called snitching, and their penalty is death, and you saying, come and work with us, I want to be a stakeholder, but if it's going to cost me my life, there is just too much at stake. So what do you say to police officers who are prepared to come in and speak about their colleague, and the same extends for the public by extension?
Well, what I would say is that you still owe it a duty to come in and make the report. Now, one of our other amendments touched that, in that we wanted to be able to offer witness protection.
Yes.
Under the Justice Protection Act. We wanted to be a party that can offer witness protection.
Who now, just for clarity, who now has that, holds that privilege?
That would be the Minister of National Security.
Only National Security. Okay, please go ahead.
So we wanted to be under the Act, we wanted to be a party, the Police Complaints Authority, to be able to offer witness protection to persons in dire need. And of course, they would have to do the threat assessment, but that was one of our amendments we wanted to put in too, and that we need, because as what you rightly say, that people, inevitably it would happen that information gets out that you complained against me, and there would be victimization. But if you could come in and then we had that power to help you to be put into witness protection program, well, then more people would come forward with complaints.
And they would, because looking, and just to expand that a bit, is even if there is action from the PCA or there's action from the police itself, and the person gets a fancy lawyer, and there is a thing called bail, and as we have found out, folks don't even have to be out on bail to orchestrate things from inside.
Yes.
So this is the risk that we have to balance. That's why your organization is so important, and the prosecutorial powers that you mentioned is surely, as well as a witness protection program, is going to be ideal.
Yeah, and that's why, you know, we're hoping to get those powers. In addition to, we wanted to be under the Interception of Communications Act. We also wanted to be a party that can apply for and intercept, because many times women are harassed on the phone by police officers about different things. And you know, once we can prove that your cell phone called this lady, you know, we can catch it. But again, we have not those were amendments that we want to get, but we don't have as yet. And that would assist us in better being able to protect the citizenry from the police officers.
It is absolutely necessary that you should be able to pull phone records and stuff like that, like anybody else. You're saying right now you don't have that.
No, we don't have that, no. And it's very cumbersome. First, we have to apply, we have to write to the telecommunications agency, and you know, they give us a long run around. So it's difficult. We try our best. We write letters. Under the statute, the statute has a provision where it says that any information we ask for should be produced to us. But you know, as lawyers, as they become creative, say, well, you know, we need X or we need Y. So it takes. But if we had it in the statute itself that the PCA is a party to the Interception of Communications Act.
But the utterances you hear from the hustings, i.e., taking you to the end of the run, you saying that there seem to be a political will to bring about this fast tracking.
Well, I would say, and I would be quite honest, that former Minister Ramada from Legal Affairs was supportive of me and the amendments, and he did want to see the amendments go through because he understood. And I think any government in power who wants to really truly fight crime, the PCA is an integral part of that body. So he did understand it, and he was trying, but time ran out on him. I spoke with Minister Young last week, and he understands also too the importance of the amendments. And I'm hoping to have a presentation to himself, I said, and the AG this week.
The acting police commissioner looked at the situation with the SRPs. And this is relevant because what it says is this is an area where a lot of folks believe there is a problem. The SRPs having poor training, and some folks say they have been scapegoated. And he decided we're going to stop the SRPs coming in. We are going to do an assessment report. Have you found any corroborating information that says, in fact, the lack of training is a contributor to cops disposed to going rogue or going against the norm? Have you found information, evidence of that? I'm trying to understand if the scapegoating is a scapegoating or if it's a reality.
Well, the reality is this. Police officers get trained for 6 months. SRPs get trained for 6 weeks. SRPs have the exact same powers, privileges, and immunities as police officers. They get to hold firearms. So they have like the exact same powers as the regular Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. So that's the first problem there. Secondly, SRPs some police officers, some SRPs who do not pass the police training, slip in through the back door through the 6 weeks training. All right? I don't think the police officers are sufficiently well trained in customer service when they speak with the ordinary citizens on the street. They're not abuse of power. You know, these topics, I don't know if they are covered and how much in depth they are covered in training academy. I could tell you about 2 weeks ago, I gave a talk to a graduating class in the police academy as part of our outreach, and it was very educational for both for them and for myself, understanding the police culture. You know, the police culture. We're from the same batch, kind of thing. You know, I have your back, you have my back. We don't. So, and we intend to actually I spoke with the training officer, and we would like to actually have a PCA day for training about the police complaints authority, in addition to giving a talk at the end of graduation ceremony.
Because that sounds to make sense. You are almost like an archive. You're a database of the complaints and the perceptions and the real problems that the citizenry experiences every day.
Yeah.
As such, you should be the ones to go to be in the training and say, well, consider this, consider this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, but the thing is, Mr. Bishop, is that the feedback was positive from them. They were happy that we came to explain what the PCA is about. It's not us against them. You know, we don't want to find you, prosecute you. We don't want to get you into trouble. No, we want everybody in Trinidad. We're all working for the same goal in that we have a good police service where the citizens can trust you. But right now that trust is lacking, and they have to build that trust. You know, I know some months ago they had started the community policing. I don't know what has happened with that, but that is a first step. You know, they need to bring in the community back. Yes. Into the police service. And
for one of the reasons, one of my co-hosts for my morning show suggested that they should be using the Facebook page for each police station, so folks can go up there, compliment and inform and give information to the police that way. In your position as the director, David West is our guest inside Brunch this morning. I believe it was your predecessor that suggested that all holding cells, remand yard, and so on should all have closed-circuit TVs.
Yes.
Has that been implemented?
Well, I know some stations have implemented this CCTV camera footage, because I know that because we have got evidence from the footage to investigate officers.
Exactly. So our listeners are very clear. We're not going far afield. That is precisely the reason to ask it, because this is all part of the...
Yes, and it has become very beneficial. I don't know if all the police stations have it. I know the main police stations have it. But this is a recommendation we had made in our, since back to former Director Justice Lucky.
Yes, Justice.
And, you know, these are part of our remit also is to inform the police service how better they can be a better police service, and that was one of our recommendations, which has been taken on board. But I don't know, the commissioner hasn't indicated to the PCA how many stations have the footage and how many stations are yet to get the camera footage.
There must be a lot of cooperation. There should be a lot of cooperation between yourself and the commissioner of police. Not yourself, but your body.
There's a lot of cooperation between myself and the commissioner, and by extension, Deputy Commissioner Hackett. We are working close in hand. You know, we are investigating the total policing report.
Yes.
The day of total policing, and we wrote to the Commissioner of Police indicating we need to see these officers, and he has obliged, and the officers have, you know, come forward and been subject to interview by our investigators. So in terms of that, yes, I mean, we have been working. I mean, there have been some glitches on the way, of course, but, you know, overall, I would say that since coming here in the PCA in November, the relationship between myself and the police officers has been very good.
Director David West, you are the eyes and the ears of those who you know, citizens. You're also the eyes and ears, particularly of the aggrieved. Body cams, a lot of folks believe, is going to stop the he say, she say, which means that if the officers have body cams, when an allegation is made, you can request the footage from these cameras. What's your position on this first, and how soon do you think we will, in fact, be seeing body cams?
Well, again, that was a report, that was a recommendation that we made to the Acting Commissioner of Police. He has indicated that he does have body cameras in Trinidad, and it is just now to do the testing of the body cameras. Interestingly enough,
I'm always amazed at that. Forgive me, don't mean to walk on you, but I'm always amazed when they say they have to test what has been tested a long time ago. If you tell me you have to put up the Wi-Fi infrastructure, then you're making sense. What is there to test about a camera on your body?
Well, I did not go further to say what does he mean by test. Now, test could mean, but set up the proper Wi-Fi. Do we have the proper?
Yeah, but the infrastructure for it, yes.
But you don't need I don't think you need Wi-Fi because it's just a camera.
Into themselves,
you know.
And they record, yes.
But of course, you know, there could be some auditing of that camera also.
Well, that is the question, and the reason I wanted to zoom in there very quickly. Director David West, the director of the PCA, is my guest. I want to zoom into that because where do you store this information? Who is the caretaker of this information, which is going to be most important? Should a complaint come to you, and then you have to get the information? What is the chain of command, the change of custody of stuff like this? Was that discussed?
No, and that's the issue he has to sort out. Mm-hmm. For example, the CCTV camera footage, it rewrites itself after a period of time. Mm-hmm. So therefore, we advised him to have a storage off-site.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So he can, for a month, after let's say for example a month, he can then store that tape for a month, so if somebody needs it, they can always retrieve it. Mm-hmm. Because there's no point having this camera footage, which is very nice, and then an incident happens two weeks ago, and you ask for the footage, and then it's erased. You know, so he needs to have off-site storage.
Guarding the guards is the issue. Let's deal with gangs and drugs, the scourge of most every nation. Sure. The problem is you're looking at something from a big picture, would include a whole lot of people. If a complaint is brought to your organization, give us a walkthrough. How is that information handled? Which is to say, I'm trying to establish to our listeners this morning the independence and the security that surrounds that information coming to the PCA.
Okay, if you can walk into the PCA and make a complaint. Mm-hmm. You can email in your complaint to the PCA. You can mail in your complaint to the PCA, or the PCA on its own initiative can start a process.
Anonymity is respected in this?
Pardon? Sorry?
Anonymity. The person can stay anonymous in making these complaints, or they will have to be prepared. Look, we're going to ask you this, we're going to ask you this.
Yeah, no, anonymity, eventually they will have to become, if the complaint goes further, they will have to be known.
All right, please.
Okay. So what happens is you come in, for example, you walk into and you see a complaints officer in the PCA. They take a brief description of what transpired in your complaint. Mm-hmm. Well, we try to get as much information as possible in that complaint. That complaint is then sent over to the legal department. Mm-hmm. We have a legal officer on standby in the complaints department waiting for that to read over the complaint. Once it falls within the remit, if it's an urgent matter, you'll be told right away, yes or no, it falls. If not, within 4 days or 7 days, we will write to you and tell you who the investigator is and say, yes, your complaint falls within the remit of the TTP, of the PCA, and your matter will be investigated. That investigator then contacts the complainant and says, my name is Mr. X, I'm looking after your matter. The investigation then proceeds. When the investigation is done, a report is done by the investigator and is sent across to the legal department. The legal department goes through the report to make sure all the elements of the offense have been made out from the different statements and all the evidence that has been collected, documentary and otherwise. Once the legal department signs off and says, yes, yes, we have believed that there is an assault contrary to section of the Criminal Law Act, there's a misbehavior in public office contrary to common law, it then comes to the director, myself, or the deputy director, to review the file. And once we review the file, because we do not get involved in any investigation or any pre-matter, because it comes to us fresh. And then we look through the whole file and we make sure that everything is clear, especially in extrajudicial killings. And then we then say, yes, a recommendation, send it to the DPP or police commissioner or police service commissioner.
Just to complete the area there, a person, because this is one of the areas when I read the PCA remit, as you call it, and trying to understand, okay, how are we functioning here? If I have someone, a citizen going to a police station, for instance, gets to the desk, as many people have claimed, you are asked questions and treated as though you are the criminal. They feel as though they're not getting through. they say this officer knows this one, or this officer knows this one. You know what? I don't feel comfortable talking here. Is that the time when they come to the PCA?
No.
Because I'm worried about that, because a lot of folks are saying, okay, so where's my redress? I cannot do it here because I'm getting the feeling that I'm the criminal. Oh, I believe this one knows this one. I don't feel comfortable talking here. What do they?
No. Once you have a complaint against a police officer,
Period.
you come straight to the PCA.
Okay.
Right? You think the police officer abused you, he assaulted you, he harassed you, whatever complaint you have, no matter how, well, I won't say how small, whatever complaint you have, come to the PCA and we will determine whether it falls within our remit. And once it does, we will investigate it.
Unreported crime, we're looking at 67% of most crimes are not reported. And 67% are not reported for many of the reasons we articulated already.
Yeah.
But there are a number of these crimes that people feel that an office like yours is not equipped to handle. How do you dispel those fears? And it is not necessarily, as in most things, it's not necessarily based on fact, but perception. And that is why I said the whole question of institutions being compromised, as we have seen, is a very dangerous thing. And that's why I'm happy you came in with us this morning, because I want to tell people there is an institution here that's working, feel comfortable to come in. Because from what I have heard many times over, every street corner you go on, somebody can tell you who's doing what. And I go, well, okay, so why is the police not handling it? Because we don't want to go to the police. So I am hoping that our conversation this morning will encourage a lot of folks who believe they've got some malfeasance going on that involves a police officer, and this is directly or indirectly, if he's in the area and just winking and it's happening, and you believe, well, there's more in the matter than the pistol, that they can come to the PCA. Am I giving them the wrong advice, or am I coming to the wrong conclusion?
No, you're correct. You're correct in that they should come to the PCA. As I said, I will want to stress it for your listeners that we are an independent, confidential body set up and designed to deal with police complaints. Okay. Now, our staff complement, we have a maximum of, I think, 25 investigators. We have about 23 now, and we are getting 2 more coming on. So the staff has grown while I have been there since November. Of course, everybody will say, well, it's never enough, but what we have, our investigators are working hard. You know, they are the engine room of the PCA, and we have done, I would say, a very good job, and I'm very proud to be head of an organization that is really focused on carrying out their mandate in terms of complaints against police officers. We have had 471 complaints last year, and I think this year will be more. So people are coming in, people are gaining the trust of the PCA. You know, it's been seen as a body that can do something, and we have investigated matters that have made a difference. Okay, I'll give you, for example, the ASP Reyes, for example. You know, we did an investigation into that, and we submitted the file to DPP. The poor fellow on the wheelchair, the disabled person, we investigated that also too. The boy in Sandy Grande who had his genitals burnt, we did work on that also. So, and those are just to name a few. So we have been doing work, and we have been sending our matters to the police commissioner and to the DPP.
You'll forgive me for a moment if I beg you to just go back to, because the genital burning that took place at that station, what was the end result of that?
No, the officers were charged.
He was charged, yes.
The officers were charged.
So it is still pending?
Yes, no, it's before the court.
It's before the court, that's what
now,
I'm saying, okay.
We have a matter which is an issue we have on Section 37 of our Act, that once a matter is before the court, we have to stop our investigation. And,
because of what? Sub judice? I mean, what?
No, because the magistrate will then deal with it. The magistrate will then deal with it. Okay, so if the magistrate finds the police officer guilty, well, then it's double jeopardy. We cannot go ahead and if he's not guilty, then we can go ahead and we do our own investigation. So that's why it's kind of paused pending the police court proceedings.
Director, I just want to go back to a statement you made, and it deals with confidence in general.
Yeah.
At the time you were working in another area, but what you said, if Trinidad and Tobago does not prosecute the number of people involved in white-collar crime, we could be blacklisted
You're going back there?
Yeah, no, and I went back there not to get an entree in. No, I used it because the same international perception you refer to is the same thing we have here. If the feeling worldwide is that Trinidad and Tobago does not have the institution to manage or guard or deal with with most powerful people as far as the streets are concerned with a gun, with their police officers, then it interferes with the country's perception across the world. I mean, investment and everything is going to suffer from it, and that's why an organization like yours has such a heavy burden.
Well, I wouldn't want to compare the issue with white-collar crime and the FIU and what they're doing or not doing to the PCA in terms of the police officers and oversight, because I think we have been doing.
That roughly means he sees my carrot and he refuses to eat it. Okay.
that I think we, the PCA, and I'll tell you just as a side, and we won't go in, but the FIU and these bodies and the DPP's office and the judiciary need their own independent budget. You need to have that. If you don't have that independence, well then the politicians or whoever is given the money always can say, no, I'll give you and I'll take it away. So like that's why, and that is one reason out of many why I took up the directorship of the PCA, is because of the independence and the independent budget, because I wouldn't do it, but I could go and buy a boat, for example, because I have the power to do that. I won't do that because, of course, it goes to audited accounts, but I have the freedom to spend the money on training where I need it. I don't have to go and ask any PS or minister, can I please have $10,000 for training? I could do it on my own.
If you get the ability to prosecute and so on, however, talking about budget still, tomorrow is budget day, today being Sunday. Are you worried about your allocation being reduced, which of course is going to hinder a lot of these plans that you're talking about, the proposals that even the present government advocated under Hustings? Are you worried about the budget being?
I would not be honest if I said I'm not worried, because I am worried, and I suspect our budget will be reduced.
Yes.
As everybody else's would. But as the Prime Minister says, you have to be more efficient. Okay, and what you do. So we will have to look at our spending in the PCA. If we want to prosecute, the attorneys there will have to go into court. I mean, how I perceive it is that we would have a senior to do 1 or 2 matters, but our senior attorneys will have to learn to be able to prosecute these matters. All right, because we cannot afford to be paying outside lawyers all the time to prosecute these matters. So initially, we would have to spend some money, yes, but I foresee over time our lawyers, and I think they relish a challenge to be able to prosecute, because that at the end of the day, some attorneys will want to get their advocacy skills out there and not just do, let's say, the desk work. But I mean, it's such a good feeling for the investigator to put a case before the legal officer and to say, yes, let's go, let's prosecute. And you then pick up that mantle and you prosecute to the best of your ability. You know, I think job satisfaction will go up 100%.
I think the nation is going to benefit very greatly from what your department is doing.
I think so. Once we get the powers, I mean, we're doing the best we can do now, but we can do so much more once we get our amendments.
David West, in conclusion, give me the top 3 things you can give to our listenership for them to understand that their area of comfort and their area of the beginning of redress is secured when they come to the PCA.
Well, first of all, your matter will be dead confidential. Secondly, you have investigators who are civilians who will go beyond the call for you. I mean, I give you an example. When we were doing one matter, because police were guarding the complainant, other police, our investigators spent the night in the hospital by the bedside to make sure nothing happened, because our complainant was a bit nervous because they had officers guarding him. And our complainant, our investigators spent the night in the hospital to make sure to calm him, to say, listen, we are here to protect you. So our investigators go beyond the call. And you have a director and deputy director who are have integrity and are beyond reproach and who would stand up for you. Okay, and once we make a decision to do something for you, we will do it to the best of our ability. Okay, so
good enough. Good enough. Anyone who feels that there is no central area they can go to instead of having it a one-on-one with police officers who they may think justly or unjustly is not above the pale, they can come to your PCA and lodge it there and feel comfortable.
And can I say also too that many times complainants have come to see me, and I have entertained them because my door is always, I have an open door policy. So if you come and you come to me, and we will find a way to move forward and work it out. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants justice. And once they appreciate that you have tried your best, then they can leave happy. Even if they do not, the outcome doesn't suit them. But once you could show that you have done your best for them, they are happy.
What is your tenure? Is that at the discretion of the president?
It's 5 years.
This is the director's 5 years.
5 years. Yeah.
5 years. All right. Well, you've got 5 years of a lot of work to do, and wherever we can assist.
November's a year already, right? So the 4 years.
Fast, doesn't it?
It goes.
Okay.
I mean, I was just
in the next 4 years, wherever you need us, call us, because at the end of the day, it is a collective effort only that can deal with this crime. It is awareness. It is people understanding what are the options available to them. The PCA is one of them. And we will do whatever we can to make it clear to others.
And let me just also say thank you very much for having me, to giving me the opportunity to, to voice what the PCA does, because it's the media who the PCA depends on to alert us to when there's a police shooting or there's something, because many times we do not get it right away from the police. So we depend upon the media, and we're very grateful, and I'm always happy to talk to the media and to discuss PCA business.
I'm so happy to hear you say that there's not an adversarial relationship with the commissioner, because at the end of the day, you are in fact assisting and buttressing the integrity of those who are there to do a proper job by weeding out the bad actors, as it were.
Correct. And there are only a few, right? But as they say, one bad apple spoils.
Die in the water is going to be blue.
Yeah. But the police service on a whole, I mean, officers I know are trying their best, but as I said, there's the few that have tainted the police service.
It would be remiss of me not to ask, is there a number a central area folks can contact the PCA? Is that something they do on the website? Is there a phone number?
Right. If you go to www.pca.org.tt, there.
pca.org.tt.
Yeah.
And that way they get the information. On the chance that some people do the forgotten technology of telephones.
Yeah.
Do you have a number for us?
Yeah, or you can call at 627-4383, and you can, or 4386, and yeah.
If you would repeat those numbers for me, please.
Sure, 627-4383 or 627-4386. You can email in at info@pca.org.tt, and you can go on our website at www.pca.org.tt.
Mr. Director, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great to have you here this Sunday morning.